Hey everybody, welcome into the Sports Phanatic Sportscast. I am Joe Borek, joined by the wonderful SteelFlyers, the Don of the website, as we call them. Figured that would get a nice laugh as we
Oh
start the
boy.
show and the first episode. But we're gonna roll into. We'll go with some basketball news first because I wrote an article. If you want to check it out on Pub Sports about the Utah Jazz before I go into Homer Central and talk about my team. I'll go talk about a team I also enjoy watching in the Utah Jazz. I mean, they're 25-6. You got a wonderful basketball team in Utah. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, since he came into the league, and I will say this outright, basketball is like probably my fourth sport to like
Yeah.
follow, but this team, just because of that dude, and he's just a legit bucket, I've always enjoyed following since Mitchell has come into the league. And now they have Michael Conley, it seems, at his best again. He's almost like a miniature Chris Paul, where
Yeah.
he is averaging the almost 17 points, 3.5 assists, and about, 3.5 rebounds actually as a small guard, which is really good, and almost 6 assists because it's not like he's a very tall player. I think he's only about like 6 feet, 6'1". So to average almost 4 rebounds is very good. That's very Chris Paul-esque. So
I'll
that's what I
say.
would say mini Chris Paul. And then Jordan Clarkson is having a heck of a season. The former Laker now finding his own out there in Utah, averaging 18.3, 3.9 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. So they got a good grouping. Royce O'Neal is an elite defender. He's not going to give you much on offense, but he's an elite defender. Bogdanovich does well. Favors is a good veteran. They just got a good group, it seems.
Put together a pretty good team on the court, being able to have guys come in and off, in and out of the bench, being able to contribute, having the whole team rotate around. That's what helps to put a good record out there like that. I mean, they're averaging 116 points a game for an average. That's pretty good. I mean, for an NBA team, especially with everything that they're going through and the number of games that they're playing, I think that's a pretty good average as far as point wise is concerned. As far as the players are concerned, when you have a group of guys that are playing like the Utah Jazz and being able to put it together every single night. They don't have the big name stars like LeBron James, and they don't have those Kawhi Leonards and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So they're putting.
They do have Mitchell though, who's emerging as a.
But he is emerging though.
Yeah.
Okay. But you don't have household name guys there right now. Okay, you just don't. And with the coach and the players, they're putting together a really good team up there. So everything as far as what they're doing, they're on track at least to be in the discussion with being considered for the finals.
Yeah, and also 13-13 for Rudy Gobert, 13 points, 13 rebounds. He's doing well, but I think eventually they are going to have a recognized star in Donovan Mitchell, where he already averages almost 25 points a game. So, I mean, he's definitely there in terms of being at star level already. It's just
Yeah.
takes a little bit for people to say you're a proven star, but I think for me, he's already there. And I think I usually don't like comparing someone to this person just because it makes me sad inside. But rest in peace, Kobe. We love you. I think Mitchell could end up being the Kobe-esque type bucket player
Okay.
for
Yeah.
the Jazz.
Yeah, because Kobe was he was very determined. He was a very he was the quintessential power forward. You know what I mean? So yeah, all right.
He was more of a shooting guard. He could just score down low too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because Kobe just the difference is Mitchell might has like great straight line shooting, where Kobe obviously had that distinctive fadeaway that was a signature of his. You don't see Mitchell do that as much, but when he does types of fadeaways, he tends to be fairly successful on them when needed. So I just think he has the ability to always have that next level kick in when it's needed. That's why I would say it could lean towards someone like with that mentality that just kind of gets you to the next extra level.
Got you. Now I got a question for you. Now, what the Utah Jazz, they've won 25 now so far, right? Okay, and they're leading the West, and then you look at who's leading the East, which is the Sixers, but followed very closely by the Nets. They both have 21 wins, right? Okay, so looking at the other teams, I mean, gosh, if you look at the Clippers and the Lakers and the Suns, they all have over 20 wins. Right? Do you think that these teams here, like the Lakers and the Clippers and the Suns, how are they stacking up against the Utah Jazz?
Well, the Suns are just becoming now into their own as a very competitive team. This is the first year they're really over a good threshold at the beginning. They obviously have Devin Booker, Bridges, that the Sixers traded over to them in the draft.
Yeah.
So they have some decent players to build around there. DeAndre Ayton's a good center, but I don't think they're going to be a team that ever takes the conference this year.
Okay.
I don't think they're at that point yet. I think the Clippers are still a little bit behind the Lakers because Paul George is on minute restrictions still. Anthony Davis has to figure out a way to just become more of a shooter, which he's good at doing when he comes back because he's going to be limited. He's not going to be able to do the jump cuts, all those things he's actually really good at, and which makes him elite and one of the best players in the game, top 5 in the game. So he's probably going to be more performing at a top 10 to a top 15
but still.
on a limited capacity, which is still pretty, darn good, obviously. But that then means at 36, you're going to need LeBron to, again, kick it up. And it's not like he's getting younger.
So Oh, by the way, LeBron, we need you to get another 12 more points for the game today.
Yeah, like that. I mean, and he'll do it. It's just the wear that then can create when he gets to the postseason where you want to take the time with Davis. You don't want to rush him, don't get me wrong. But you also want to make sure you don't overpush. You might want to then be the team that goes for a J.J. Redick or somebody else that can help with the scoring because LeBron can facilitate, obviously, very well.
Exactly.
So, if you get him, that will help you compete. But without AD, I think because of their offense of the Jazz, they're obviously not as good as the Lakers defensively. With Anthony Davis, the Lakers are the best graded team both ways.
So when's AD supposed to be coming back?
If he does, I think they don't want to rush it. I would say probably about a month, but I wouldn't rush it because LeBron will step up. You will stay in at least second to a very worst third, in my opinion. The Clippers might. But if the Clippers are up on you, it would probably be like by a game or two at most. So once Davis back, you definitely have the ability to gain. So I think they'll be fine there. I think they're going to be the team with AD.
Okay, I was just going to say.
Not at his best, healthiest level. I don't know if they're the team to beat then because the Jazz offense might be able to take advantage of a limited AD on defense as well.
Okay, so now let's go about with the Clippers now because is Kawhi Leonard, is he playing up to snuff? Is he showing up? I mean, what's going on there with the Clippers? They're right behind the Jazz. They've got 23 wins. You know what I mean? Are they a team that could be knocking on the door? Could they be threatening as well? I mean, I know because of last year, with all the additions that the Clippers made last year and all the additions that the Lakers did last year, those two were the teams to beat in the West.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then especially with what Houston did with moving some things around with the Rockets and everything. And now you're seeing the Clippers and the Lakers are rising back up to the top again. So do you think the Clippers are going to be a threat to the Jazz as well?
I think they could be because they got a little bit more experience. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard already has won a championship in Toronto. Of all
yeah. He
brought the championship to Toronto. No offense,
and then said,
Pirlo.
Thanks for the memories. See ya.
Yeah, no offense, Pirlo and the Canadian basketball fans, but nobody thought one man would go to Toronto and bring your city a championship. But 27.1 points, 6.2 rebounds, 4.8 assists. He's doing his job.
Yep.
The thing that probably doesn't have them in first is what I mentioned before, the George minute restrictions, because they are better than the Lakers without Davis. If the Lakers don't have Anthony Davis, I do think the Clippers are more – it would go until they prove to top over the Jazz.
Gotcha.
It would be the Jazz, Clippers, Lakers. But with Davis, I would put it more even. I would say both LA teams are kind of in even
Okay, I got
position. But then the Lakers bring the more winning experience because LeBron's won a crap ton of championships. So at that point, they would bring more of the winning experience.
Okay.
But I do think Paul George is playing fine. Obviously, he's averaging 24 himself. But if you can get him into being Paul George minutes-wise, that's what team is really going to have the best chance to compete with the Jazz. Ibaka's doing pretty good there. One of the Morrises, Marcus, is doing pretty good there. So I think they have a good group, and all of a sudden Nicholas Batum, who was a player that kind of went into limbo for a while, is kind of re-emerging and actually having a pretty successful season there. And then Patrick Beverley is a very scrappy player, obviously. So they got some good guys to mix in. I still personally, until they prove me otherwise, like the way the defensive makeup of the Jazz more than the Clippers, but we'll see as time goes on.
Yeah, I got you. So we talked about the Western Conference, and we talked about some of the great talent and some of the wonderful things that's been going on in the Western Conference. Let's get into a little bit of the East here, where we got, of all teams that I would have never have thought to be leading the East, would be the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, what?
Well, we were expected to be
2 years ago. 2 years ago, Philadelphia was what, at the bottom, or close to the bottom?
Was a little bit more than that, because that was when we started kind of getting better, and then we had good years. The last 2 years of Brett Brown reign.
That's what I mean. Like the last 2 years, they've started to finally. Like last year, they made a little bit of a sniff. And the year before was a little bit of more of a, an improvement. Every year was more of an improvement. You know what I mean? This new coach with the Sixers now, I think, wow.
Doc Rivers.
Yeah. What the only other teams that I see being there are the Nets and the Bucks. What do you think about the East? Give me a breakdown here of the East.
The Nets are a scary team, but they're not nearly defensive savvy as the Sixers team has the ability to also still be, because they haven't been as good defensively as I think they even should be at times. Where when you have Danny Green on your team, who's really a D and 3 guy at this point, not a 3 and D guy, he's more primarily better and more consistent defensively probably than he is at making the 3-point shot. You got a guy like Thibault, who's just a defensive player. Who's kind of like your Royce O'Neal-esque guy, but can score more than Royce because he's had point games that he scored almost 20, or I think he might have had when he got 20. So like he will contribute at a higher clip when he really clicks in for a game than an O'Neal type. But you got guys that can play defense. Ben Simmons is obviously good at defense. Joel's good at defense. Having Dwight adds a backup center that also is tough down low and pretty old school. So that's why he gets called for some of those fouls that are soft. But
tell us how you really feel about that, Joe.
but the Nets are scary in the sense of their offense. Their defense is really piss poor, where it's probably going to be ranked somewhere in the 20s, and they're going to have to win because of their offense. But their offense is that good that they could definitely have the ability to do such. And if DeAndre Jordan plays like he has in a couple games this year and kind of becomes that very good defensive anchor that can grab boards, that's when they're going to become really scary. But until we can do that on a more consistent basis and not just some games and then not so much others, that's when I still think the Sixers can beat them in a series just based off of if Simmons can play consistent enough in the playoffs, because he doesn't really have the playoff experience of others because he was injured last season. So if he can play consistent enough in the playoffs, and then you can have him play good defensively as well, that's going to be the big keys to beating them. But we have a better defense, I think, than Brooklyn. They have the better offense. Obviously, they have a historic offense since James Harden has got there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because, boy, that they've just cranked off the last 7 games in a row, and that was the big deal there. That was the big trade, or the big James Harden going to the Nets from the Houston Rockets, you know what I mean? And that instantly put Brooklyn, that instantly put the Nets kind of right on up there, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I said. They put the offense in a historic Mount Everest, but it did not put their defense anywhere close to that. So it's not really a team that is going to win in the conventional ways. If they win a championship, it's going to be because they go and keep coming at you and are aggressive.
Exactly.
Whereas the Bucks, I don't think are going to win the finals just because they don't have as consistency when it comes to their around the team scoring when it doesn't come to Chris Middleton and Giannis. Everyone else is not. They don't have as many consistent people on their teams and as many consistent people on the other end where they have aging Lopez, I believe, is their center. The Bucks. So you got some guys that are not as consistent there. So I feel like they're still a team that's kind of a very good third place team. Maybe they could overtake second if they do hone in the defensive end more but I don't think they're taking over from the Nets. So I feel like they're just going to be that great third place team.
You know, what I've been looking at here too is this. All of those three teams, the Nets, the Bucks, and the Sixers are all really good at home, and they all have kind of not the best records on the road. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be something that's going to play into things, especially down the road, and especially once you get into the playoffs. You know what I mean? Because you need to be able to win those road games in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And so when you're 8-9 on the road, that's you need to be a little better on the road, I would think. You know? So I think that's going to play.
It will play. It's just when you win, if you can win the East, you get the advantage. So
obviously, you get that extra game at home.
Yeah.
Right. Do they still
won't play as much?
Now, are they gonna? I know that with what the NHL did last year because of COVID and everything like that, and I know that the NBA was not nearly as affected the way that the NHL, or they didn't change as much. So, but they haven't changed, right? The NBA is still going to have their playoff format.
They have wild card. No, they have wild card teams this year.
Okay, so the wild card team could potentially make it. So that's what, the 7th or 8th seed?
I think that's how they're doing it. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Maybe it's to 9 or something. I felt like they may have made an additional team, but I don't really entirely remember what it is. Andrew's the one that always remembers.
Okay. Okay. No, I was just curious, though, to see if they were going to change anything about the playoffs. And their first round is only the best of 5, right? They don't play the best of 7 until you get to the semifinals and the finals, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. Yeah, like baseball. Baseball's first round.
Same way, right? Yeah. First round, they only play the best of 5. Okay. All right. So we talked about the East. We talked about the West. What do you think, man? Is it going to be a Sixers Jazz final, or do you think LA is going to squeak in, or what do you think?
I mean, I feel like if the Lakers can get Anthony Davis to figure out how to play in a limited capacity in still a very good way, which we know he's a guy that always puts his best foot forward, so he's probably.
Right, but he's out for the next month, though.
Yeah, I think they are still the team to beat at their best. After that, I would put Jazz, then Clippers. When it comes to the East, I think Ben Simmons needs to get more consistent, and the Sixers need one more guy, maybe bringing back a Redick or somebody like that, that is a little bit more consistent, where Korkmaz has been better this year, but still up and down a little bit. So getting more consistent shooters. Isaiah Joe's a rookie, so you can bring in someone with more experience like Redick, who's only going to help those guys like he did when he was here before for Korkmaz and now can do for Isaiah Joe. So yeah, I think that could work. If you're the Nets, you don't need to do a damn thing other than maybe add to your defense. That's something you might want to do. You might want to trade for a defensive-esque player. But other than that, you don't really need to do anything.
And when's the trade deadline?
Top teams. I think the East. That's a good question. I want to say next month, but it might be April.
Okay.
The trade deadline.
Okay.
But
so there's time yet. There's time yet for teams to make some moves and do some things that they can get, to where they need to get to if they can.
It's more. I mean? It is next month. It's March 25th.
Okay. Cool.
That's what it said. But I was going to say, I think the West has 3 competitive teams for the championship, which is the Jazz, Lakers, and Clippers.
I agree.
I
I
think
agree.
the East only has 2 because I don't think the Bucks are a championship contender.
I agree.
I
agree with you.
Nets and the Sixers.
I have to agree with you on that. I just look at Philadelphia as kind of being that taking over for the East because now obviously Cleveland's fallen away and Toronto's doesn't have Kawhi Leonard anymore now. You know what I mean? And so and the Sixers have done nothing but get first round draft picks the last couple of years and have made good on some of those draft picks, and they've built the team pretty well, and they're actually starting to pay dividends now where the Sixers are actually starting to win some games and playing a little bit more consistently than what they have in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? That's why I was like completely blown away when I looked at it. I was like, wait a minute, that's the Sixers leading the East? Wait, no, that's a typo, but it's not. And so there you go, man. More power to the Sixers.
Yeah, no, they're doing good. We have a couple decent things. Not the Eagles. Going on to Philadelphia. But other than them, there's some nice things, including our soccer teams. Our soccer team's one of the better ones in the MLS. Maybe we'll talk something about that.
The Wings.
The Wings. I remember watching some of their brawls back in the day.
There you go.
But they had some old school brawls that they looked like the Broad Street Bully Flyers fighting on a Philadelphia Wings.
Oh my! Well, hey, what? That's a perfect transition, Joe. What do you think?
To go into the Flyers
or to go into hockey?
Yeah, because both teams on Broad in the Wells Fargo Center are having a pretty successful season, especially because the Flyers had to go through a lot of perseverance and everything with their lineup. As I said on our podcast yesterday with Jim and the podcast that night I did for Disciples of Ed, it's a time that you have to just get through the adversity. And they got 1 point out of the Rangers. I didn't expect a win at Tahoe, quite frankly.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I just wanted to take in the experience. Now, waiting 9 hours to watch the first game wasn't a marvelous experience, but the scenes and everything, and watching a Rutledge fall on his rear end while trying to imitate the Happy Gilmore shot was hilarious. So there was some nice experience to that, having the nice backdrop and all that. It was beautiful, but yeah, it was what it was. It was all for TV. And obviously that didn't work out as well with day one because the game had to resume at 12 Eastern. But,
right.
diehards probably did pick it up and watch it. And so, it was a good game. And then our game wasn't a good game for us, but it was still a great experience.
Here's the thing that blew me away a little bit. And when we did our preview show, the Lake Tahoe preview show, and Shannon Walsh said it. From Slapshot Sweethearts, that this was a missed opportunity for the NHL to be promoting this, to be, doing something special for this, and they just absolutely did not do that. And then I think with what happened on the first day, riddle me this. How is it that you put an ice rink in the middle of a fairway next to a lake that's not frozen and expect it to maintain temperature when there is no cloud cover, right? And it's a completely sunny day? What happens? The sun reflects off the water from the lake and radiates back in through. See, they weren't thinking that far ahead.
Well, they also, they had weather people that chipped it. I think it was more the NHL decided what we want to do the ceremony and have the opening ceremony. We don't want that to be at midnight Eastern.
Okay.
So we wanted to do that. So whatever happens with the first period happens. We'll reassess after that.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly what the thing was.
That's definitely what they did. But you look. I know why they tried to do it at that time, because of exactly with what you said, the views, the picturesque views, the.
What happened?
Oh, I don't know. You went away and came back. Okay, well, put your back. So you're back. All right, welcome back. But the views at Lake Tahoe are amazing. I mean, when you look at the camera from ice level and look out across the lake, I mean, that's a once in a lifetime experience, right? But you can't sit there and tell me that somebody said, "Hey, let's put the game on at 12 o'clock, high noon." What? Okay, it's the most sunlight out there, and you get the most exposure to the best lighting for the cameras and all that, and you get all those great panoramic views and all that. But hey, you gotta have ice, and ice requires a lower temperature, and you can't have sun beating down on it.
Yeah, no, it did not work out as they hoped. We started late afternoon, so you still got to see some of the scenery local time. And I think that worked out well. I think they should have moved the other one, obviously, to about like 4:30 or the local time.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a missed opportunity, but still, it was nice to see the experience. And again, it was nice to see a very, very big failure at attempting to do a Happy Gilmore shot.
I'm with you on that because I laughed my butt off when I saw him fall like that. So
yeah, but
you know what though? Here's the other cool thing. The game was the most watched. The Flyers and the Boston game was the most watched NBC sporting event for a very long time. They had one of the largest shares ever for an NBC sporting event for that game, for the Flyers and the Boston game. And they could have done that. That's why I wanted to say that, because they could have done that if they would have just taken your advice and started that first game a little later.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's a good point. Yeah, because you're going to lose attendance when it's 12 Eastern, obviously, of TV attendance, because you don't have anybody in the stands out there on a fairway. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was.
Did you see that one puck that went flying? Right, I think it was in the Avalanche game, and they said, yeah, the puck went out of the rink, right, and it landed like way down the fairway there. I was like, okay. Because there's no net. Yeah, there was no netting around the glass, so if there's a puck goes flying, it's just going to go flying. There's nothing there to catch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I said if you can plan a golf trip right after that, you might get some free pucks from the NHL.
I was just going to say, all you have to do is wait a couple days, and you'll be seeing some pucks laying around out there on the 18th fairway. All right. Well, speaking of all kinds of fun things, I think we have to mention this. Speaking of fairways, prayers go out to Tiger Woods. He was involved in a single car accident where his car flipped around, and
they were talking about this too, which was pivotal in this. The California streets there are very narrow. He's going to play, and I think it was a charity event with some celebrity, and he had a rental car, and they brought up the stats, and they said the collision rate in rental cars is significantly higher, especially in areas as such.
Well,
because you're not used to the handling and all that. And if you're going a little bit quicker because you're running late or whatever it was, that could factor into that.
And they said that road that he wrecked on is notorious. At that curve where he wrecked is notorious for collecting people that, are unwary or whatever the case is, and stuff.
Not aware of the surround. Yeah, because you're not in that area all the time.
All the time, right? You don't drive that road every single day. So, but we'll see. We're hoping that everything goes well. I mean, he just came back from back surgery. He was starting to play pretty well. He did win the Masters last year. Yeah, he won the Masters last year. So, I mean, he was coming back to playing well, recovering from back surgery. But from what I understand, he had 2 compound fractures and a shattered ankle. They did do some surgery. So it's going to probably be a long time.
Which was good.
Yeah, they said he was awake.
Like others have said, the most important thing to keep is your mind. And when you have that, you have everything. So that's what he was responsive. He said to call his manager per some reports and got them in contact with all the right people before he ended up going into all these surgeries. That was good to hear.
Yeah, prayers out to Tiger Woods and his camp, and we're hoping that everything goes well because, it's a shame when you see somebody have a car accident like that, and they were trying to come back and.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that, the fact that we were talking about fairways and everything, and I just wanted to a little shout out. I'm not a huge golf person or anything like that, but when somebody like that, Tiger Woods, who's an ambassador of the sport, goes down with a major issue like that, I think you have to kind of give props, especially to the law enforcement and the EMS and all the folks that came there to his rescue. They had to extract him from the car. Okay, so you have to give it up to the fire and rescue crews and all those folks too. So we're hoping for the best for you, Tiger. Get well, buddy.
Yeah, so I echo that. Obviously, you got to wish the best for Tiger, but in terms of the Flyers, I was honestly content with it because we got 1 point out of the Rangers. We had to fight hard and far for, and we also faced the best shootout guy in the NHL currently in that game. He did not step away before that game in Artemi Panarin, where for this next game, he will not be playing.
Not be there, yeah.
And also, first of all, that seems like a fabricated story. I won't get into it, but we wish him well as well, because if you have a Russian hit put on you, you definitely want to go hiding somewhere. You do not want to be playing in hockey. So,
yeah, that's probably not a good idea to be quite as publicly available like that.
No, definitely no. It is not. No.
All we can say
I wish
is this.
him well and hope he's safe.
Yeah.
And
we're hoping that the truth comes out, and once the truth comes out, then we'll know. And all we can do is wish for the best and hope that everything turns out well. We know how certain political things happen and stuff like that, and we're not here to talk about that. We're just here to wish a hockey player who's facing some adversity. We just wish him the best. Okay, and hope for the best, But that parlays into exactly with what you were talking about. We'll get into a little bit of the Flyers here because they're playing tonight for the first time in a while since the Lake Tahoe massacre. They're playing tonight against the Rangers because they're going to be missing Panarin for tonight's game because of this whole issue with him dealing with his home country and things of that nature. But there's also a lot of adversity as well too because of the Flyers with what they've had to face in the last 2 weeks or here since the last couple games that they played with dealing with a lot of players on the COVID list.
Yeah, there's adversity, obviously, for both teams. The Rangers are a team that's obviously still not fully there yet either. But they have beat us, and then they beat the Capitals to get their last 2 wins. So they beat some successful teams.
Yeah.
And the Capitals win was without Panarin, if I'm not mistaken. So they were able to play them really well without Panarin, where obviously Panarin was a huge pivotal point of the shootout in beating us. And then Capo Caco is also one of the league's best shootout players.
I was just going to say, and he's another one of the best ones.
So,
yeah.
So you're not going to be able to have much success as a goaltender against those two. Not that's for certain. The Flyers, I haven't seen a full thing yet on it, but G practiced yesterday. So did Braun, as Jim Jackson mentioned in our thing.
Yeah, I did see some posts though from Jamie Baskow from Flyers Nitty Gritty that it does appear that Giroux will be in the lineup for tonight's game. According to some of the tweet reports that he's put out, it does appear that.
Here it is. Expected. He tweeted 2 hours ago. Expected Flyers lines and pairings for tonight.
Yeah.
JVR, Coots, Farabee, Giroux, Hayes, Patrick, Bunny playing third line center with Raffle and Knack, Andreoff playing fourth line center with Morin and Cherwinski. And Carson Cherwinski, who's getting put in the lineup. Provy, Ghost, Sanheim, Myers, Hag, Gus. So we're taking out Shushko, and Carson Cherwinski's getting his season debut, according to expected pairing.
Yeah, I didn't hear a name in there that I was.
Moose. And Moose apparently is the
starter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Braun is still out on the list. Yeah, Braun's still out on the COVID list, I think. Or no, he was added to the active roster, but I think he's not available yet.
But they might just not want to put him in yet.
Okay, and then there was somebody else that I didn't hear on the forward list. Nolan Patrick.
No, Patrick was. Patrick was the winger on the second line. It was Drew Hayes Patrick.
Okay.
And then one of them. That's only
because we're still missing
that's,
Lawton.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Okay. All right. So that's why. Because I agree with what Jim was saying.
Though.
Yeah, I know.
That's his expected lines, but it would have Carson Cherwinski, so they want to bring a little bit, which I think makes sense against a rival like the Rangers. Bring more.
I agree. And I think Carson has a more physical game.
Yeah. This I feel like should still be. I know Jamie tweeted one of Morin's last games on wing. I think he would do best off going back to defense, but that's.
I'll second that.
Okay, well that's both of our opinions then. Where Friedman I don't think should have been put on waivers, but it is what it is. It happened, so hopefully he clears it to get back to the taxi squad.
He's gone.
Oh, did Hextall grab him?
Hextall grabbed him, picked him up. Penguins picked him up today, so he is now a Pittsburgh Penguin.
All right, well, we hate you, Ron. I'm kidding.
I agree. What I don't understand why that was done.
Freeze is a good defense. Like the thing is, he's not a, so to speak, like very good, like how some people, scouts would even use the word sexy looking defenseman that like does everything in a way that would wow you. He's a guy that just gets it done. But you need guys like that on your team, and Pittsburgh knows they need for darn sure guys like that on their team because they got a lot of guys that are not always technically sound.
And their defense is seriously suspect.
Joseph is very good. Both of the Joseph twins are having good seasons. One in Tampa for Matthew, and then Pierre in Pittsburgh. But they don't have the best overall defense.
Right.
So that's why getting someone that's just kind of a keep it simple, stupid type guy that played good at forward the first time you put him there since 9 years old, has the very good work ethic. Unless if you're thinking someone else, or like you're going to give Prosser, who played good in one game, more time, which would make sense because he played good in one game, and some other guys are playing not very consistent, and he at least played good in one game and did something he's not even paid to do, which is score. Where I feel like you could put him back in. The only other guys that have experience, like I said on DOE, is Wotherspoon, Bygras, and Pouliot, if I remember correctly, from in terms of NHL level experience. Where then other guys, some of those guys, the Flyers would actually, I think, have to sign, where Pouliot was already on the taxi squad and could get put in a game if needed. So you might be able to maneuver that because it still doesn't seem like AV's committed to a third pairing, where a third pairing doesn't make or break you, but it's still important, and you have to not have one of the worst rated third pairing.
I'm with you on that. I some of the things that have happened in the last little while here, I just don't understand. Like what we were talking about with the quarter season preview with Jim Jackson. I have a hard time with why they keep going back to these same guys that are not producing. Why do they keep putting these guys back in the lineup if they're not producing? Look, I understand that maybe not the young guys are necessarily all that ready yet, but if they're better than the guy that they're putting out on the ice, I have a hard time with them not seeing some time. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. You know, I get it. They're trying to win games. They're trying to get to the playoffs. They're trying to do this. But I fail to see why we continually put guys in that are costing the team instead of helping the team. And then you're putting guys, you're sending guys away that could help the team instead of, you know what I mean? Why are you sending them guys away? Those guys should be in the team playing.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, that has to have something to do with, obviously they're just rumors, but the talk of the Flyers looking at a different few named defensemen, obviously the most prominent one being Matthias Ekholm, who's with the Nashville Predators currently.
Yeah.
And I feel like this might set bigger alarm bells, too. They're probably going to trade for a defenseman. Because I think they knew Friedman had a good chance to be claimed, especially when your former general manager is currently a general manager again. So I think they had to know that was possible. So I think
But that's a heck of a risk.
The big thing here is you're going to make a trade for whatever defenseman you're able to snag. I feel like you obviously have to snag somebody that's more defensive centric. Unless if they're like Eric Carlson has, like if you get Duncan
Yeah.
Hamilton, he's made better defense on Carolina. If he can play like he did there, he's going to be basically one of the best offensive defensemen in
Right.
hockey. So that's a little bit different.
So
But
could Nashville potentially take Gustafson off of our hands, or Braun, or somebody like that?
I don't know why they would, except for the fact that Gus only has a 1-year contract and the fact of what Jim was saying, where Eddie Olczyk thinks he's better than what he's putting out. So if they can figure him out down there, they do need a little bit more offense out of their back end as well.
That's what I mean.
Maybe they would take him, but he's not good. He would be a throw-in. He's not going to be anything that helps you. They're not going to consider him much value, I don't think. So it would probably be like a first round.
I was just curious. Yeah, I was just curious.
Like, I think Ekholm's a guy, if you trade for him, he's a guy you're going to have to, like JJ was saying, either re-sign or to take that a step further. If you think you're going to win the cup, you better do it. But if you do it, no one's going to care that he walked, even if you trade a first, I don't think, because you won the freaking cup. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But that's a big risk because you have to actually capitalize and finish the season out and win. Otherwise, if he does walk, people are not going to be overly happy with that, obviously.
No, and speaking of walking, look, we spent a lot of time here talking about the Flyers, and we do love the Flyers very much. But there's a lot of things going on in the NHL right now. We did touch a little bit on what was going on.
Oh wait, no, he does have. I actually realized he has 3.75 for next year, so you would have him for next year too. I just looked that up. So Ekholm, you would have to worry about after next season.
But it's only at 3.75.
That's what it says, 3.75 on Cap Friendly. Right now, he got banged up in the one game, though.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. But this to me is a no-brainer move, especially when you lose Friedman like that to get nothing.
You definitely have to give up a first, though, for knowing now that he has that extra year for that good of a contract.
Okay.
But I would do it because the other thing is the Flyers draft well, where I think what some people I see on Twitter and everything, when they're like, don't trade a first for a defenseman, they don't realize how good we pick later in the draft because Shushko was later in the draft that they already have played.
Wisdom was later in the draft.
Wisdom's playing like a first-round pick. That was a fourth-round pick.
He was a fourth-round pick.
Zamula was undrafted. Wyatt Wiley's playing later. Hogberg was later. Hag is a solid NHL defenseman. He was later. So you have guys that were later in the draft. You have Myers, who was undrafted. You got Zamula you're developing, who was undrafted. The team scouts well all around. You brought Raffle from overseas. Played well. Linus Sandin looks good in the minors. You brought from overseas, Rasmus's brother. So they're doing a good job all around. Obviously, you got Fedotov overseas in net, and you got Ursan. So you're doing good all around. I think this team proven they don't necessarily need a first. It's great to have it, but you're still pick well otherwise, and you might get a guy that turns into first value later.
Yeah, see, that's the thing right there. Like what Pittsburgh Steelers did 2 years ago when they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick, right? So they traded their 2021 first-round draft pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick was 11th overall selected in the first round. Mm-hmm. And he ended up being a Pro Bowl player. He ended up leading the league in takeaways. He ended up, you know what I mean? Like, all right, we know he's a first-round commodity because he was 11th overall selected. Right? He came over to Pittsburgh and then just lit it up. All right, I don't have a problem trading away a first-round draft pick for somebody that is a known commodity as a first-round draft pick.
Exactly. I fully agree with that.
Yeah. So if we have a chance to get this guy from Nashville, I think we need to take it. I definitely think we need to take it.
He's also a defenseman that can play your second line, your first. Like, he could do whatever you want there. So he's going to be your top four, which then moves somebody else down that actually can play. a little bit more consistently. So it adds a lot more consistency
I agree.
in there.
I agree.
But you would unless if you obviously give them a defenseman back, depending who that is, but it would probably be more of a throw-in where the pick is really where more of the value's coming in, where a defenseman would be probably Hag or Gus or somebody along those lines. But I think you would have to give a prospect too. I don't think they're just going to take your first, because Ekholm is one of the league's most consistent defensemen.
Well, but he only is $3.75 million value to the team for the next 2 years. So maybe
that's
not.
also why I think they might take more, because that contract's such a team-friendly contract. So they'll be
okay.
Now I don't know if they're going to ask you for someone that's ridiculous, but like if you give them, like they might say, well, what about that Ohio State kid you drafted in later rounds? You like Lazinski?
Nope.
Like they might say something along those.
Oh, him? Yeah, maybe. Cam York? No.
They might say, well, what about a guy like, now you don't want to trade O'Brien for him, but you could trade LeBurge, who's still coming off.
Yeah, there you go.
Looks like a pretty good player.
Yeah.
In my opinion, once he figures it out and stays healthy, I think he'll be able to figure it out. But you don't need a million forwards that you like. So you could sacrifice that, but I still think he will be a solid player, but that might be someone in there. I think the first is what they're getting the most value from.
Probably. Or, we could probably even do a goalie even too. I mean, I don't know what their goalie prospects look like, but so Joe has gone away again, and now he's back, and Joe keeps flipping off and flipping back on. Yeah, man, we like it.
What happened is not doing a reminder for me.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. It's all good. No big deal.
But
we keep seeing every once in a while we get to see your little picture. And then your face comes back, and then your little picture comes, and your face comes back.
Well, it's doing the disco type, throwing it back.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cool beans.
I can put the light on in the background too. That flickers different colors.
Oh, hey, no. We don't want to break it out like that now. I think the Flyers need to, with what we talked about, get some time to get some games under their belt and try to get back to a little bit of consistency again, because they've missed so much time and stuff like that. Then we can have a much better assessment of things after they play the next couple of games and we start getting some of these guys back. But I am going to say this. I do agree with Lance, Lance Green, that we've talked about on numerous occasions. We do need to get that physicality up in the game and in the team. And until that happens,
should help with that.
Our star players are going to get pushed around, and things are not going to be answered, and I have a problem with that. So the other big story I think we have to get into, obviously the Flyers aren't the biggest story, but for us they are. But the biggest story in the NHL was the fact that we had a certain coach is no longer coaching anymore. And I was quite blown away by the fact that the Montreal Canadiens fired Claude Julien.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it seems like they want to go with a more, like we were talking about the other day with Pirlo, a more defensive mindset. And Julian has been known to do that and run into the offense. But it seems like this team, from what I read, and Hockey News will probably end up commenting on the video since he's a big Canadians guy. So let me know if you think otherwise. But wants to go too old school, where I'm not sure if that's going to work in today's NHL. We saw it with Dallas before they brought in Bonus. Their defense, they were too defensive.
Yeah.
Is such a thing. Even with good things, defense wins championships. It's like this right here. Water. You can't just drink 85 gallons of water. You'll still die. There's a limit to everything that's good. So,
can't argue with that logic.
There's a limit to, just to make the point that obvious, there's a limit to how much defense you should actually play. You can't go like, oh, we scored 2 goals. Let's just, like, that's literally what the Stars would do for a period of time. So, but, and Montreal, the difference is Dallas did that because they had bigger guys that were getting banged up a bit so they couldn't move as quick.
Exactly.
Montreal doesn't. Montreal has Kotkaniemi, who's a bigger guy, but that can move pretty well. Suzuki, who's very skilled. Deneau, who's one of the most underrated players in hockey.
Yep.
Drouin, who, when he's healthy, can move a little bit. And then they have Romanov, who's playing fantastic. So you got a good team. You got, obviously, Carey Price, who's going to the Hall of Fame. So you have a team that shouldn't have to rely just on, let's protect the lead when we only have a 2-goal lead. That's why and let's try to get all brute with the Shea Webbers of the world, and let's make Petrie more physical, who's also right now probably one of the top 2 in the Norris if the season ended with how good Jeff Petrie's playing, another very underrated player. You should still make your defense push your offense. That's what I think Montreal needs to do. They have to have a team that facilitates their offense through their defense, and they got Shea Weber, they got Jeff Petrie, they got Romanoff.
Okay.
And they got a guy that can do. They got 3 guys that are good at doing that, so they should be able to do that. And Victor Mete, I like him. He's underrated too.
Yeah.
So they got to run their offense through their defense more consistently. But other than that, they should not go overly brute and defensive. That's too old school of a mentality.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Claude Julien the coach of the New Jersey Devils during the infamous trap?
He was. Yeah, he was.
Okay.
That's why this doesn't make the most.
That's why
I'm
where I think scratching my bean on this.
Pierre LeBrun said, which is it seemed like he enjoyed. It seemed like they enjoyed the organization. That is the effort the guys were given, but it was not in the right way. Like they seemed like players were confused in exactly what they wanted to do, and before it went down the well a little bit longer. Paraphrasing, they wanted to kind of nip it in the butt.
Yeah, because they've lost the last couple of games here after coming out of the gates looking really awesome. So they've lost the last couple of games, especially like to Ottawa. You can't be consistently losing to Ottawa and expect to think everything's still good. You know?
No, you
so,
can't. So
I was completely shocked by that.
I was shocked, but at the end, once I kind of sat back and read stuff and everything,
yeah, it makes sense.
As surprised, yeah, like it kind of made some more sense because if you are still doing solid and putting forth an effort, but it seems like guys are kind of confused on the message, that is still an issue.
Yeah,
like it doesn't really
it doesn't.
It's kind of like if you're a manager and there's a guy above you. And everyone's doing great, but you're still like, I don't know what in God's creation this guy's telling me to do above me, but I'm still running everyone well because I'm saying do your thing. Like, you're going to want to eventually know what he wants. Like, you're not going to be able to just consistently go, okay, let's just keep running this ship until we run into the ground by accident because we have no idea what he wants.
Okay, so that's why they got rid of Julien then. Okay, that makes more sense now that you think about it like that. But still, I mean, it just seems like he was the perfect guy, the perfect coach to coach that particular style and that type of team, and that just doesn't make any sense to me why they would let him go like that. But we're not up there. We're not dealing with the situation. It's not our issue. We did touch on the. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Look, we also got a shout out here to Boston, I think. The hottest team in hockey. I mean, they next to Toronto. You got to give it up to Toronto and Boston for being some of the hottest teams in hockey, you know. And at the quarter mark, you could definitely see that Boston is starting to stack more and more wins together, and they're starting to separate. You know, like you're starting to see the good teams starting to separate.
3 solid goalies too, which is, I would say, their goaltending room in terms of going 3 deep. And I like Lyon as a guy that can fill in, but Vlador is a guy that seems like he could be a 1B at least. They really do like him. So I think their room is better than ours in terms of who's the 3, because Sandstrom you don't want to play in the NHL. He should be going down and playing some with McIntyre, but the problem is Zane McIntyre is one of the best AHL goaltenders, so don't really want to sit him.
Probably.
The thing there is I like Lyon, but I think Vlador is a notch better, and a guy that could become an NHL starter. Lyon's going to be a backup if he ever does late in his 20s, which guys have done in the past. Break into the league just because they're great at working at it and everything. I think would do that. But I think they have the better room there, and I like Tuukka Rask in terms of once he gets in the postseason, when you have a guy like Halak with him that can kind of temper how many games he has in the season.
Oh, man.
Esterson with them. You're going to be able to go a long way. And I think they're a team for me this will make John happy and warm and fuzzy inside. That still will be Toronto because they don't.
I agree.
Defense. Toronto,
I agree.
Boston with inexperienced defense still runs a strategy with Cassidy that they try to play defense. Where with Green, it's still a lot more, or Sheldon Keefe, excuse me, it's still a lot more running
gun. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to come to nip them in the butt if they end up playing a team like the Boston Bruins. Unless if Freddie Anderson plays like he's playing this season.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to do that in the postseason, which is a different animal.
Exactly. We've all, and another couple of teams that I think we've all been impressed with has been Florida. We didn't really have very many nice things and good things to say about Florida at the beginning of the season. I mean, we all said, well, hey, if Bob plays up to his 80% of his Vezina self, and if Drieger can actually
anymore.
But that's what I mean. Because if Drieger's come in and just said, what, Bob who? Right, and has played really, really well. Florida has played really, really well, not just offensively, but defensively. Okay, they're not playing against the cream of the league yet. I mean, they're playing the Detroits and, that kind of thing. But they're winning games. They're playing against Tampa Bay, and they're beating Tampa Bay. Okay, so that's where
already has beat Carolina and Tampa Bay.
Exactly.
He also beat Nashville, who's an okay team, and then they fought to OT in their one of the more recent games on the 28th against the Blue Jackets. So he's been playing really well. Bob is not still, but I mean, that's the thing. That's what makes them scary. Then you got Levy and Knight, who were both very good in the World Juniors. Levy just decided he finally got an invite to summer camp and was like, yeah, see, you two, you ain't starting anymore. And then became the starting goaltender for Canada. So
exactly.
So they got two good guys
oh boy.
there. So I think they're going to be fine when it comes to goaltending. Dreger's going to be this nice middle 20s blossoming goaltender scene, and hopefully Bob can figure it out. Otherwise, he is going to be a hurtful buyout to have to make for your books.
Yep.
But he might end up going to the KHL, like I know Peyton and John were talking about, so we'll see what happens there. But we wish him the best and hope he figures it out.
Yeah, that would not surprise me one little bit if he ended up going to the Russian league, because look, $10 million a year, that's a lot of money. And if you're riding the bench for any serious length of time, which he has been now, you know what I mean? That's a serious amount of money that you could be using to pay for other things on your team that you need. Okay. Now I understand why they brought him in. They had to bring him in because they have nobody else down there. I mean, they had Huffman, but that's about it. They don't, and Florida is not the big market. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so they wanted to bring in a guy that would draw more people. Yeah.
Put butts in the seats. Okay, and let's face it, Bobrovsky is that guy. He's won 2 Vezina trophies. I mean, come on. Normally in
he just hasn't been that guy since.
Right. Normally in a non-COVID affected seasons, that $10 million is nothing. Okay.
Yeah, definitely better when this cap's still going up and getting higher and going up incrementally after each season.
Exactly. So we were impressed with Florida. I think the other team that we're a little bit impressed with too is a little bit of New Jersey coming out. I'm a little bit impressed with what New Jersey's been able to do, especially with some of their first round draft picks that they've had the last 2 years. Holy moly. Okay. So we like what
they're at 500. They've been solid. They would obviously probably be better if Blackwood never went down, but they're an all right team. They're still going to be on the outside looking in when it's all said and done with the Rangers, I think.
You think so? You think the Rangers are that little bit spit better?
Yeah, they're a solid team, but they're still going to be outside. I think the Rangers have guys that are more experienced already, so they might be a notch better than the Islanders are coming into their own now. So they're actually playing more like the New York Islanders of recent than at the
Yeah,
beginning.
because that was the other team that I was surprised about this year as well too. Because I picked the Islanders to go to win the whole East, and well, they don't even remotely look like they're going to do that. Woo,
Well, they're coming up a little bit.
Yeah,
now.
they are. They are.
People fall off, but
Yeah, they are.
See what happens there. But
I mean, you can't give up on a Barry Trotz team.
No, you can't give up on a Barry Trotz team. But Florida's a very good team. Carolina's playing lights out. And the Chicago Blackhawks are better than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I was just going to say they were going to be the next on the list.
You have a team in where I think I said this in my one video. The Bowmans could pull some random dude off the street and tell me he's going to score 40 goals. And at this point, I'll just be like, okay, that checks out.
Yeah, right. We're good.
where like they just get anybody. And it just works. Where the only guy that has struggled in net this year, and honestly, with the way they're playing defense now, if they put DeLea back in net, he probably would actually look half decent.
I was just going to say, yeah.
But you have Malcolm Subban finally coming in his own. He's only played 4 games, but is playing well in them. And in 3 of them, played like he was freaking Carey Price. In the one game, he struggled. Then all of a sudden, he turned into Carey Price in those 3 other games. Then you have Lankinen, who's one of the best goalies in the league with a 2.59 and a 9.21. So he's emerged. The Bowmans were talking him up, and it really hit. It definitely helped him. It seemed like it pumped him up, and he's doing really good. Obviously, Patrick Kane is going off again. Duncan Keith is doing what he has to do at the age of 37, and he's doing it successfully. Zadorov's having one of his best seasons.
Yeah, Patrick Kane, I believe, is on a 13-point streak. He's 13-game point streak. So I mean, yeah, man. Who knew?
He's having guys step up. You got Kurashev, you got in the 4th doing well. Pius Suter, you brought from overseas. They got a good overseas guy that's filling in on Tay's line between Kane right now and playing well. So he's a guy that'll move down to a 2-center, obviously, whenever Jonathan Tays is able to play again. But he's doing well filling in. And you got the guys like Nylander, Shaw went out again. You got guys that have not been in, but you're still able to perform at this level. Kubalik is doing good again. In his second season, no sophomore slump for him, getting good assists. Strome went down day-to-day with a concussion, but he's playing well again, and it's only day-to-day with a minor one, so hopefully he'll be back sooner.
Yeah.
And Suter's doing great. Lucas Wallmark, is a guy that's a pretty underrated guy that plays scrappy on the forecheck and a decent defensive guy who chip in some on offense, and with the right players on his line probably could chip in a bit more. So they got like that decent filled out team where guys have stepped up to make it more filled out, like the Kurashevs of the world. Janmark's playing his best season. Matthias Janmark there. DeBrinket's obviously a developing star, so he's playing well. So you got guys that are doing it there, and it seems like they're going to consistently keep doing it. So there'll probably be a team that might just miss, or there'll be probably the last team to make it.
You know, so much for rebuilding in Chicago. I mean, if this is rebuilding, gosh, I'd hate to see what happens if they start from the ground up. I mean, you know, because they came right out and said that we're rebuilding, and well, gosh, okay, cool, whatever. I guess you're doing something good up there because whatever
rebuilding, and then at the end of freaking May, all you hear, and the Blackhawks have won the Stanley Cup. You're just like, oh.
If that happens, you know, anything can happen. But if that happens, look, I already know that I'm not the prognosticator at all in any of this. But if that happens, man, I'll tell you what, that would be quite amazing if the Chicago Blackhawks would win the Stanley Cup this year.
Now, I honestly, because I always separate homership from, especially because I knew I wanted to get into this field, so I ingrained that in my brain at as young as I could, separate your homership from your sports talk, except for when you're going homer for that take.
That's right.
I've always been a fan with my 2 main sports that I became really a fan of the overall game to admire certain players and certain teams, that the way they craft them. I've always admired what the Bowmans are able to do. Now, I didn't enjoy the beat us in the Stanley Cup, of course.
Of course not.
But I'm not going to now all of a sudden hate one of my favorite players because he scored a weird angle goal in the Stanley Cup to beat us. Like, that's not a reason why I think I should hate somebody. So that's why I still very much like the hockey game of the way. I mean, the dude had a goal the other night that the puck went to him on a lucky bounce. He just spun around and shot a backhander through the wickets of the goal, like between this of the goaltender. Do anything he wants on the backhand. He, like Crosby, has one of the more impressive backhands in the history of hockey. Wherever he gets in the backhand, the goalie's like, "Oh, please, Lord, just help me save this puck."
It's one of those ones where he puts all his hands and his arms out and closes his eyes and just hopes that the puck hits something.
Yeah, you make yourself big and just
like, just put all your pads out and sprawl out and close your eyes and hope it hits something.
and McDavid, because McDavid also is scary as heck when he's coming in on a goaltender because he's going at 95 miles per hour straight for you, and then he stops on a dime somehow and doesn't move, and you're just like, I think my life just flashed before my eyes.
Did I see that? Like, you're still watching him stop, right? Like he's already scored and skating back to the bench, and you're still watching him stop in front of you. Like, woo, okay.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous how much he can rush the zone. Where I get what JJ was talking about, where that obviously probably will, like Ovechkin did that and they weren't able to get over the hump. He'll probably have to tone it back in order to actually win a cup, but they also need more blocks on their team to be able to win a cup too. I don't think even if he does that this year, they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Mike Smith turns into the Mike Smith of old and doesn't let that weird angle go like yesterday, where I'm just like, Michael, what are you doing? like in a disappointed Pairings.
Yeah, right. Like, what are you doing? Hey, stop.
But that's just the way it is. I do like Smith for his career. He's always been that fun puck handling goaltender. They're always the fun ones to watch. I can pass it around the ice.
I always like that.
Is getting a bit better because not at passing, but at stopping it along the boards. He seems to actually put his stick down and stop it a lot more consistently now, rather than having it go through and around, and then you have to get back in front as quick as possible. But
exactly,
I think there's some goalies that obviously are solid at that. Ottinger's a guy to watch if you like puck moving guys. The young guy in Dallas, he's a guy that enjoys being able to move the puck a little bit. And then in terms of backup netminders, whenever Alex Stalock is put in a game, he gets put in games. Honestly, the way that he's sticked around is, well, one, his personality's great, but two, also because he's able to command, like he kind of can QB a bit because he's one of the best puck-moving goaltenders when he's in a game. So that's what's kept him around a bit too, where he's a guy too, a cheapy type backup. I wouldn't mind once Moose goes on, if he's still in the game, someone like him, or a guy that looked like he's bringing his career back in Jersey, working hard at it, in Aaron Dell, like those guys that always have that great work hard, play harder mentality. Those are guys you like to have on your team.
I agree 100%. Can't go wrong with that. And I always thought that that's what kept Brodeur in New Jersey for as long as it did, because he was so good at moving the puck. You know what I mean? That it didn't matter even if you were on the power play or not. It didn't matter because he was going to be that extra defenseman back there for New Jersey that you would never be able to get.
Uron was all right at it too. Marty was all right at it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it is what it is, and I like seeing the goaltenders being able to move the puck like that. That adds a different dimension to the game, and it adds another.
Right. Moose is actually pretty decent when he's actually in zone, and he's been in the zone all thus far this season, and he's supposed to start tonight. I think he's going to have a good game against the Rangers,
I think so too.
Obviously, so
I think so too.
I think he's been performing. Honestly, he's a surprising player in the league because I expected him to do well, but he's performing like the best backup in the NHL, or the second best backup in the NHL right now, where he's always been that great security blanket, and not the guy you consider at Yaro Halak backup.
Yeah, he's not like a 1B
Halak right now. So that's why I think if he can continue this, the Flyers are going to be perfectly fine until Hart with the new. It seemed like I read an article where they said he changed his technique a bit to not be as vulnerable to some shots. Well, you have to learn a new technique. It's like when a pitcher changes his rotational move.
Takes a little time.
You don't just all of a sudden turn into Cy Young as soon as you change your motion. So you're not going to turn into second coming of Belfour as soon as you change your motion or something like that. Like you're going to have to take a little bit to get.
Give the kid a little break.
So I think that's just the way it is, and you got to give him some time. But having Moose is huge. Having even a Lion, who I wouldn't be surprised because other teams have done it. If when we get guys back and healthy, if we get cruising a bit, just because all you're doing on the taxi squad is nothing other than practicing. So if you find a game to actually put him in, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, since other teams have done it with their third stringers, and they've seemed to have done it so they can get them in some games to get their feet wet. And there's teams you can do that against still. So
I agree. And that would be nice to see that too, because Leon needs more of a body of work to look at. He has a very small body of work. The Flyers.
What they pronounce Lion,
Yeah, however you want to call it. Alex Lion. Yeah. But he needs.
And if you look up Alex Lyon, some phone backgrounds you can have a roaring lion, and then
really?
Randoms of
all right. Okay. Cool.
It's like a Lion King lion, and then it's just simple.
Oh, there you go. All right. Cool. Oh, hey, we would also like to shout out though that our very own Professor Joe might be covering the Flyers game tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be this evening at 7:00. Like I tweeted out, check it out on my Borek6789 Instagram and my Twitter, which is JJBorek26. I'll be putting pictures on Instagram, obviously, and then tweeting stuff during the game.
Yeah, man. Be checking that out. Can't wait to see that. I mean, that's through the sister site of Flyers Nitty Gritty that you got that great gig from that. So big thanks to FlyersNittyGritty.com. Big thanks to Jamie Baskow. All them guys over there for sure. So we always like to see the guys that we have on our shows that get the opportunity to go and cover games, because that gives us more of a believability. It gives us more of a better reputation, because we actually have guys that do cover the games. You know what I mean? So we're not talking about things because we're looking at things through something else. We're actually talking about things because we have people at the game. You know what I mean? So
and I'm one of our main me and Toby, one of our main Lehigh people. So I'm more doing it from the roots level up to the major league level.
Exactly.
Prospect, and also watch, like I said, I'm going to start an AHL podcast soon through our channel, and I'll probably also do one through my YouTube channel, because then I also put everything on Nitty Gritty too, so it gets double, brings the love to everybody. And you're able to spread the love around an old
exactly. But I wanted to shout that out though. So Joe's one of the better writers out there. Joe's one of the better guys out there as far as I'm concerned. That's why he's part of the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, because of what he brings to the table. We don't call him the professor for nothing. All right. So how about this, Professor? We covered the NBA. We covered the NHL. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in the NFL, isn't there? Even though it's the end of February.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when you trade a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, well, first of all, the Eagles obviously traded Wentz for a third-round pick and a conditional second, which could become a first, and then the Texans moved Deshaun Watson to the Dolphins, which, of course, was a trade that I ended up doing a video on my Sports Fanatic News YouTube channel.
So that actually went through then?
they could get. It hasn't gone through yet, but if that goes through, they move into
Okay. Okay.
That trade's not official. Yeah.
All right, because I don't understand that move. Because you have Tua down there in Miami. Okay, why would you bring in Deshaun Watson, who's okay? In my opinion, Deshaun Watson is a starting quarterback in the NFL on any team that he would like to be on, as far as what I'm concerned. Okay, and if you have Tua Tagovailoa down there in Miami, why would you bring this guy who's definitely going to be slotted as the starter?
Whoa! Did they trade? They didn't trade Tua.
What? Is that part of the deal?
I would assume if they got Watson, they would trade Tua because there's no point in keeping Tua.
That's what I mean. Why would you? Hey man, stranger things have happened. I mean, this is all new to me. I just thought that they released Deshaun Watson, or that he requested a trade, or as far as I knew, he had requested a trade, but I didn't hear anything else after that. Okay. That he was.
Yeah, I don't think anything's. The only thing when I look it up, it says a thing of Texans trade Watson to. It says that's a high. Oh, okay, so it's a high possibility, but not definite.
Okay, so that's just the potential.
Because the article's phrased as Texans trade Watson to Dolphins. Like,
okay. I do kind of understand the Carson Wentz move. Yeah. I do kind of understand that. Okay. Because you want to get the new coach with the new quarterback, and Jalen Hurts, I think.
I would understand it better if we knew that. That's the thing where that's why everybody that's been talking about this doesn't understand anything. Where I just did a video too on why I think the Eagles should build around Jalen Hurts, and I believe in Jalen Hurts. The problem is the team has no idea what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to put it.
That's where you have big problems when you have a team like Tyrone Johnson, who's Mike Missinelli's producer, says this all the time. It's hard to keep believing in someone. I just do because he's one guy. I don't even watch college football that much. I would try to watch because I like the way he played with his smarts and everything, and figured it out from there, and used his athletic ability, but his smarts first and foremost, and didn't run around willy-nilly. He was always still looking for a pass downfield and not first and foremost trying to run. I liked that. But I think you have to have a team that actually believes in you and doesn't run you on a carousel ride, just like they did with Carson Wentz. Like all it was this one big amusement park freak show that was like you signed him to a contract, and then like a couple months later, all of a sudden you're like, you know what, this guy ain't it. Let's draft Jalen Hurts in the second round and have a good competing starting quarterback behind him and say to a quarterback factory. Where, like I said in my video, this isn't baseball. This isn't hockey. It's one thing to have a goalie factory because you want to have as many good goalies because then they can become trade value. It's one thing to have a pitching factory because you want to have as many pitchers and then they can become trade value. In football, all they do is sit there. It's not like you can loan them to the CFL or do something where they're going to start. That would not be a half bad idea, actually, if they thought of that idea. But there's no way to get them to start. So you got to be able to do something that makes more sense for your team, where now you realize what it was. It was honestly one of the few things that Max Kellerman has ended up being right on, which is the fact.
I better write this down. You're giving credit to Max Kellerman? Whoa.
Which is the fact that the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts knowing he was going to be either competing or their future starter. And that's what ended up happening. They got rid of Wentz a year after they drafted Jalen Hurts, and then traded Wentz for not nearly as much value as what you got him for. You gave up boatloads of picks with extra carat gold on them, basically, to get Carson Wentz. You upped the carat gold, basically, on top of all these draft picks. That's how much value you gave them. So you probably also opened safes that were not open for 45 years in order to give them that much value. Like, that's how much you gave up for Wentz. And he got back a conditional pick, which he has to play 70% of the snaps, which obviously if they're not successful, he won't do. But obviously you want to see what he can do out there, and you wish him success. And also for fans that don't, you have to wish him success, otherwise you're not getting a first. So
yeah, right. Yeah, you hope he does well.
So I think it was a good move because he was done with the organization. You can't usually buy or earn back trust when it gets that crunched up and ripped apart.
Indianapolis was the perfect spot for him because it reunites him with Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia when they went to the Super Bowl.
The funny thing is, he enjoys like playing with Wright and his mentality where he got us there that year. But other than that year, I know someone brought this up that his stats were his stats were actually a little bit better in QBR and certain things without Frank.
Yeah.
Interesting what it is there, but he does like his coaching motto, so maybe that'll help him out.
Yeah, well, we'll see. You know, I mean, the fact that J.J. Watt was released, he has been an unhappy camper. You know, I would like to know what's going on down there in Houston, because first the coach gets fired, right? And he was actually the general manager and the coach, and then they had the guy before that was Deontay Haskins or Hawkins or whatever who wanted out, right? And he got traded, and they got nothing for him, right? And now, and now Deshaun Watson wants out. JJ's out. The coach was fired. What's going on down there in Houston?
Well, their team is obviously in a very big disconnect, and that has a lot to do with ownership. But
yeah, I'm with
when you can't trust the owner, you're not going to go. And it also has to do with Bill O'Brien, because Bill O'Brien was a terrible GM. When he just coached, he was actually half decent. But as a general manager, he was terrible. He pulled a Chip Kelly and destroyed his franchise.
Exactly. He tried to be Bill Belichick because that's where he came from, right? He was part of that.
And nobody else to this point has been able to emulate Bill Belichick.
Oh, that's exactly right.
So I think they're going to have to retool it here. I don't think they're going to be able to keep Deshaun and save that marriage at this point, where I think that's kind of already pretty much has both people with the divorce papers that are just sitting on a table unsigned somewhere.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, and they're both sitting across from each other with their hands folded, waiting for somebody to pick up the pen to sign the paper.
Yeah,
It's
like, so you gonna do this first? No, how about you? No, how about you?
You do it now.
But I think they're going to have to move him. I think it'll be the right decision. I do think the best move is to Miami, because you can get Tua, you can get a high overall pick, because even though Miami was good, they traded for a pick. So you can get a high value pick. I think it was the third overall pick. So you get that, and you also get Tua. You can build the team then around Tua and focus on getting him receivers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, but I just don't
think value in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, I think Florida wants to win now, because the Dolphins haven't been good in years. They don't want to wait for Tua to develop. They would rather trade Tua.
But then why would you draft him?
An MVP.
Why would you draft him?
I think you would wait for him to develop, but once you realize you can get what you think Tua will become if he hits his highest value, you might as well go get him, because he's only 25.
Okay, but I think that Tua is going to be better than Deshaun Watson, because I think Tua has a better arm.
Yeah, but he doesn't have as accurate of an arm as Deshaun Watson. Like Tua,
well, not that Deshaun Watson has the most accurate arm either.
At the NFL level. Like Deshaun's pretty accurate lately. In the last couple seasons, he's got more accurate. Where Tua, last year, the biggest surprising thing for him was the inability to actually accurately throw past 10 yards. Where that was something he was more consistent at in college, where usually that translates, where he has to pick up better the defenses in the NFL. I think the Dolphins, with the good, solid defense they have, that they have the money to add more to, they can add more to the receiving core. They are more, let's get a guy that can win us a couple in the next few years without waiting 3 more years for him to actually hit his prime.
So I think that's why it doesn't. But see, that's why it doesn't make any sense to me why you would want to why you would want to get Deshaun Watson to come in there when you already have Tua, and instead of going through all that mess and rigmarole to try to get somebody else to come in here and relearn the system and relearn everything and blah blah.
Drafted Tua just for seeing that the Texans were going to completely screw up and knowing that he would have the value to.
Okay, I mean I get that you know you're not going to be able to see those kinds of things, but I still don't. When the Dolphins have the availability to get players that can help Tua instead of replacing Tua. You see what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think for me, it's Deshaun Watson. For me, like he put up MVP level stats for a team that had a bunch of like random dudes running around half of the time that you never heard of it.
Pretty much.
That's in the football. So if he was on a good team, and also I was kind of annoyed that the Texans suck because I bet on Deshaun Watson to win the MVP for this season, and he put up MVP stats, but you all did nothing. Anyway, moving on from that.
He's not bitter, folks. He's he's not.
Deshaun Watson is a very good quarterback that, for me, I don't know if Tua will reach that because Deshaun, for me, is top 5. I don't know if Tua will be top 5. I think Tua can be top 10 to 15, and I think that's max because Tua's more of a let me run to run sometimes guy, where he will still look down the field, but more than Deshaun, he'll take off and take his eyesight off. I saw that a lot last year, where Watson.
Yeah, but I think that's coaching.
Like Russ.
But I think that could be coaching, because I think you're going to see, and as you've seen, like you saw it with Russell, you saw it with Mike Vick, you've even seen it with Carson Wentz. You see it with all the quarterbacks, even Lamar Jackson.
Well, Russ does a good job of moving or keeping his head downfield. He's probably one of the best at that.
Right, but what I'm saying is that what you see with the quarterbacks that are good with their legs, right? The first year they come out and all they are is about their legs. And then they realize that, well, wait a minute, I can't win every game. I can't make every play with my legs. I have to use the other assets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's what you're going to get with Tua, because this was his first year.
The thing
you know
is,
what I mean?
If he gets to hit Lamar, that's still not Deshaun, because Deshaun Watson, because he can throw more consistently down the field than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I would take Deshaun Watson every day.
The same level. So I think Lamar is a guy that's towards the elite level, where Deshaun, is at the elite level.
Okay, I got you.
Lamar's like, basically, here's elite, and Lamar's like that.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Like away,
just a whisper away.
Where like if he gets that throwing more consistent, that's when he's full house in the elite, which is also a good TV.
I'm with you. Look, I'll give it up to you. You know, I honestly think that we might actually see. I thought there would be more of a play for Deshaun Watson. I thought there would be more. The teams like Dallas would be trying to grab for him, or even maybe like the Raiders might be trying to grab him, or even Jacksonville. Gosh, somebody, pick a team that doesn't have a quarterback, But
Jacksonville, it depends, because I feel like they're a team that's defense oriented usually. Like that's just been when the Jags have been at their best.
Yeah, that's true, but their defense has dropped off.
You have a game manager, where I do feel like Minshew is a game manager. So, I mean,
yes.
I feel like if you want to just have a guy that's going to win you the 10-12 but not do it in a very sexy way, Gardner Minshew can be that Fitzpatrick-esque game manager that's going to make some of those mistakes because he takes risks, but he can manage the game fairly well, where it depends what way you're trying to go there. If you're trying to create a dynamic offense, you'll want to get somebody else. If you're trying to build around your defense and win that way, like look at Chicago. Rex Grossman got them to the Super Bowl. He was nothing special. Nope. They had a very good defense, and Rex Grossman got them to the Super Bowl.
Wait, hold on. So, I'll do you one better. Trent Dilfer?
Yeah.
I don't even think he threw a touchdown pass in the first 7 games of the season.
He didn't have to. They had good running. They had a good defense. do anything. He was just a statue going, okay, we have a quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
He's back there. He's got the ball.
But
all right.
Whatever. Yeah, no, him and Rex, yeah, those are probably guys. And then obviously Nick Foles won us our lone Super Bowl here in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be the guy.
He played his butt off.
He did, but it's definitely not the guy you would expect to tout as winning your lone Super Bowl.
True. And then even in the Super Bowl, he played his butt off. In the Super Bowl. You know, I mean, God,
yeah, Brady threw 500 and some yards. And he won the damn MVP.
That's what I mean. So, I mean, against Brady. And when you're in a shootout like that with somebody like that and you do better than the other guy, hey, all right. I'm also a little bit intrigued.
Most people consider, the GOAT.
Uh-oh.
That's when you know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when you know.
But Joe,
that's when you know you just have a magical touch here.
Where's Joe? Joe's disappeared again.
Oh, did the picture go away?
We're playing Where is Joe? We get to see this really cool little Phillies hat and everything, but we don't get to see Joe.
I had water go down the wrong side anyway, so it's probably better for the time being. The camera went out for a split second. There we go. Pulled a Stephen A. Smith.
Uh-oh.
Tried to drink my coffee and went down the wrong pipe.
Okay. You're supposed to breathe it, not drink it.
Yeah, that's
so don't see you.
Usually a more successful thing.
Oh, there you go. You're supposed to drink your beverage, not breathe.
Yeah.
There you go. Are you all right?
But Foles has always had Foles magic here in Philly. That's why some people want to trade for him back.
Okay. I don't think that's going to work.
It will be interesting.
That magic is gone.
If you bring Foles back, he should be the backup.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as Hurts makes a mistake, you're going to hear, oh my God, Nick Foles is on the bench. Nick Foles, I love Nick Foles. Foles,
why isn't Nick Foles?
I should have married Nick Foles when he was here in Philadelphia. Like you're going to have everybody saying all those things, so they're going to want him in, and that's why I don't think you should create that headache for yourself. If you want a good backup as a game manager, get a guy I've mentioned or a guy along those lines like a Fitzpatrick that just knows how to be a backup, been around the block.
Exactly.
Gets done when needed. Case Keenum's kind of the same thing if you trade for him.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Get someone along those lines. If you want to get a younger guy that you think you can mold if you don't want to give up a lot of assets, maybe someone that if you can get with the right coaching, since it seems like Denver might go elsewhere if you want to create. I don't love QB competitions. I think they're more counterproductive than productive in my own opinion. But a quarterback I've always liked since college, just because when he's at his best, he's also good here and plays through that way like Hurts, but is not nearly as athletic as Drew Lock, who had a bad sophomore season, but in his first 7 or whatever games it was in his rookie season, threw 6 touchdowns and 2 picks. So if you can get him back more to that mode, you can have a good competition here and figure out who's going to be your future piece. And I think at this point, Lock's value dipped down to about a third. I think if you're trading for Drew Lock, you can just throw him a third or maybe even – I would actually start at a fourth and then see what they say and then give you a third.
I've also been seeing, too, that what's the guy from the Jets, Darnold, Sam Darnold, might potentially be on the block as well, too.
I feel like Darnold's going to be a lot more, though, because people know Darnold's only been like that because of the Jets. Like, everybody knows that it's the Jets' fault, that Sam Darnold, because he put together numbers at back ends of 2 seasons that for the last few games of each, he was one of the more productive QBs. So people know the writings on the wall was and the fact that Adam Gase looked like he was high as a kite half of the time he was trying to do his job. Like, people brought that up where when he showed up for his press conference, he's just like,
wow.
Like looking all over the. So I think the Jets just don't know how to hire people. Since our GM went there, our assistant GM hasn't done as good as they hoped, Douglas.
And they certainly don't know how to draft.
Yeah, they don't know how. They definitely don't know how to draft. Yeah. You have to build around your quarterback. They never did. They just kept getting guys that were more defensive based and never got more offensive weapons.
Exactly.
The guys they did not work out. So.
I mean, when they drafted Mark Sanchez wasn't a bad quarterback, right? I mean, for real, he really wasn't a bad quarterback. He just played on a really bad team that had nobody around. He had nothing. He had no running game.
Well, because the years he did, he was basically. I think Sanchez was basically a better version of Rex Grossman. He was nothing special, but
right.
He would make some decent plays.
He was a game manager.
Was really just a game manager.
Yeah, you know, but that's still better than anything that they've had in the last couple of years, with the exception of Sam Darnold, obviously. But they had no team around him then. They don't have any team around Sam Darnold. They tried to have Le'Veon Bell, but, well, if you have Le'Veon Bell on your team, and he's known for being a patient runner and a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, well, if you don't have an offensive line that can block for him, then he's obviously not going to be effective running the game or running the ball. Yeah. And if you don't put him in the offense to do those swing out passes and put him in the slot or anything like that, and he's not catching the passes, well, then you're not taking advantage of him.
No, I completely agree with that. But as we're coming towards the wrap up here, because I do have to talk to Jamie before I get into covering the game. And
okay, yeah.
We can go into baseball to round out for our baseball group of fans, which is pitchers and catchers reported, regular guys reported for workouts this week. Here in Philly, for my Philly people, McCutchen definitely looks quicker again, coming off of his second year back from ACL surgery. So if he's able to field more like 2 years ago in the final year of his contract, that would be huge for the team because they would get more consistent fielding because the pitchers they added in Matt Moore and Chase Anderson are both guys that get a lot of ground balls, get some contact, so you want to be able to have more consistent fielding.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting for my hometown team. Bohm's in his first full season, second season. And you're going to see what he can do. If he can play third base adequate, I said this when I'm Chasing the Pennant podcast, all you need is him adequate because his offense is going to be that good.
There you go.
Segura needs to be more consistent on defense. Hitting he was good at last year. He needs to be consistent on defense. Hopefully Hoskins comes back to his full effect. Harper's Harper. And then center field, you got to figure out who's going to do it there. And then you know what you're going to get from JT when he's healthy. Right. And then Knapp played good as a backup last year. So will Knapp stay consistent? Will Matt Moore pitch well back again in the majors after dominating Japan, which is a offense-first league? So you have to see those things.
I actually watched some of those baseball games that they had in Japan there that they were running, or they were Korean
league.
Korean, yeah. So I watched some of those Korean baseball games. Man, all right, that's pretty respectable out there, man. They got it going on. They know what those teams down there are pretty dedicated, and the fans down there are pretty dedicated. That's for sure. I'm excited too because when you start talking about baseball, we start thinking about spring training, and when you start talking about spring training, you start thinking about spring, right? Okay, well, so now Joe just disappeared again, but while he's gone, we're going to say this. There's some games coming up here at the end of the month, and it looks like almost every team's going to be involved in some of these.
About the 28th.
Yeah, right around the 28th is when we're going to start getting some of the spring league games playing and some of the grapefruit leagues playing and stuff like that. So that's going to be exciting. Do you think that the Nationals, they won the pennant last year? Yeah.
Huh?
The pennant? Who the Nationals won the pennant last year?
No, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. And last year the pennant was
the World Series. Last year was what's it called? I kind of remember in my head because I stopped watching it because I got fed up with the Phillies by the time we got to the World Series. Rays and Dodgers. That's right. The Dodgers beat the Rays. Yeah.
Dodgers beat the Rays. All right. So the Dodgers are the defending champs. We know that historically New York spends money to get teams. We know that historically Boston spends money to get their team. Yeah.
Again, kind of at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. We know that they have in the past. Exactly. We know they have in the past. Is there Is there going to be anything special with baseball this year, like with what they did last year? Are they going to delay the start? Is there going to be any kind of shortened season or anything like that? Because last year they only played 62 games.
They're going. Joe Biden, which honestly I feel like had something to do with the fact that he's a Phillies fan. I'm not gonna lie. I think that was a homer ask. Asked them to delay it a month, which I honestly think was, I'm a Phillies fan. Let me give my team more time to sign more free agents to compete with the Nationals, Braves, and Mets.
Okay.
I honestly think he went full sports mode there. Because he literally even said before, I think everything's safe to start on time, and then just went, wait, I'm a Phillies fan. What the hell am I saying? And I'm like, let me say, but after that, they decided the Players Association wanted to start in time because the leagues are ongoing now and are figuring out ways through COVID. And most of them, people have put in requests to have fans soon, like Philly, for example, put in a request to have fans by, I think it's even next week. So if that request gets approved, you're going to have some fans in Wells Fargo for both Sixers and Flyers by even maybe next week. So there's stuff that's moving in the right direction. You already have some in Lehigh and Wilkes-Barre and Hershey. There we go. And then Jersey is approving more fan attendance, so you can have some stuff there soon if you want to. So
we do know that Florida and Arizona and Texas,
they've had it. Yeah,
they've allowed fans since the beginning of the NHL.
So it's opening up, and for opening day, they expect fans to whatever the capacity is at the point of when April hits, because they don't know exactly, like, if the regulations will open up more by then, if they stay the same. Hopefully they don't lessen what they're going to do at that point and where they're going to be at that point. That's kind of what it is. It seems like we're moving in a good direction to definitely have fans for opening day. At what capacity, I don't think that's known.
Okay, so they're not gonna shorten the season. They haven't changed anything like that. Everything's supposed to just go like normal.
As of now, some people wanted the DH to stay in. As of now, it's not. But some people you're listening to, like Bob Nightingale, who's basically like the guy, like one of the top guys, just like a guy like Bob McKenzie is in hockey. Or Pierre, he's basically one of those go-to guys when you're looking for baseball. Said everything, same with Jeff Passan. He's the same.
Jeff Passan, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Fluid until the season starts, because last year they changed stuff a week before. So if they lay out a reasoning and people are like, well, our pitchers aren't as loose because of the weird COVID season, we don't want them getting injured in the batter's box, just swinging the bat, they might end up eventually putting that in.
Okay. Because I know that last year they did a bunch of stuff because of the COVID and all that, and they shortened the season and everything. And I wasn't really sure.
Still doing the runners thing. That second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just don't have the DH. That's something I think they are going to keep in. But as of now, they don't have the DH. But the CBA also expires. This is the final season of the current bargaining agreement.
Okay.
So when that, first of all, there's probably going to be a lockout at this point because both sides detest each other.
I was just going to say, it's probably not boding well.
Eventually, when they come to a deal, it's probably going to include a DH.
Okay. I would hope so, because that to me is a traditional. It's been in baseball for a very long time, and I kind of like to see that continue on as well too. So.
Well, no. There's a DH in the AL still. They just don't.
Right.
Universal like it was last season.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. I'm a fan of it.
Issue.
I'm just a fan of it. I guess call me old school. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. But the fact that we're going to have some baseball, and the fact that we're going to have baseball with fans in the stands, that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Nice. Yeah, it was nice having the game I covered for the Phantoms. When you were walking in, seeing some fans walking, it was only like 250 people or whatever it was, but still, it was nice seeing some people walk in, having it seem a little bit not close to normal, because they pack that house.
The
fans are a very popular AHL team. They pack the PPL Center. Hell, Reading usually packs their arena, and they're
right.
But so this fan base reps their levels down, and the Phillies fans are pretty similar. Nowadays, you probably rep the minor league teams more than the Phillies because they're better than the Phillies lately. But the but you have people that rep it through and through. So I know Delaware's team for the Sixers, they get people that travel down there pretty well as well.
Okay.
So they're definitely doing it well with everything there. So I think everything's going well. But when baseball's back, it's exactly what you said. Spring's here. The warmer weather. We have a good day today with the sun's finally shining. It got in the 50s. It's melting all this terrible snow. As Steve Nelson, the one guy I listened to for baseball media, wrote on his board, snow sucks when you don't want to do any snow sports. If you want to do snow, right. bring on the snow. Otherwise, no.
I'm a snow guy. I'm a winter guy. So
I'm not trying to go snowboarding. We don't need you. You're not needed. So hopefully there's less snow going forward and it feels more like spring because I don't think I've seen my lawn in over a month.
I'm actually starting to see big patches of it shining through in my lawn right now. So
not yet, no.
yeah, trust me. There's caught a couple patches out here for sure. So I'll tell you what. The baseball season is going to be very interesting this year because it's going to be a full season, and it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with the whole COVID thing, the way the NFL did and the way the NHL has done it. And the way the NBA has done it as well, too. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to happen. I'm also looking forward to how just having regular baseball games. Okay, that to me is that brings back that sense of normalcy that everybody's like,
I think they might still do. I know it's rumored they might do those double headers so you're not in the stadium for as long, whereas you do it college style, where you do the 2 7-inning games rather than 2 9-inning games. And then if they go to extra innings, you would hope it only goes to 9 innings and becomes a full game. So it adds some security there for how long everybody's in the stadium.
Okay.
Total. So I think they might end up still doing that. Once that started, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. I didn't think, I thought I would just be like, don't bring college into pros. That's just not the way it's supposed to do. But like in college, it's fine because it's fun to watch it, the different strategies they use and stuff. But that's not something that really should come up. But it worked out better than I thought it would. But I don't think it's still something I want once everything's back to normalcy. But for an unnormal time that we're still in, I'm okay with it.
I'm with you on that for sure. I agree with that. Well, man, I'll tell you what. We covered all the leagues. We got lots of great information. We got a lot of great stuff. We want to definitely get you out in time here to talk to Jamie, so that you can get going here to go cover the Flyers for tonight. So we're looking forward to that. Can't wait to hear how that went. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating a W tonight. That would be
hopefully we'll get a win with Moose and Ned and have the lineup that was projected with Jamie. Bringing in Carson would be a good move.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe play one of his last games at win, but if he plays well, with the physicality stature, that's what you need against the Rangers. You have some guys like Blackwell, who's playing better this season in the lineup, who's a scrappy guy. So, among others, so you have to be able to stand up to them, and I think we'll be able to do that tonight with Moose and then and put a pretty good effort forward.
Agreed, especially with New York Rangers missing Panarin. That's going to hurt them a little bit too. So going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to your coverage. As far as that's concerned, you can catch me on Twitter at SteelFlyers at 52. You can catch all of our great stuff at www.steelflyers.com/links/Sports Phanatic News. You can get all of Joe's stuff is all there. All his videos, his YouTube channel, all that stuff is there. All his contacts and everything, get all that stuff there. And so really appreciate all that, and keep following us and keep hitting the like and subscribe.